Massive mutant sheep for breeding farmer faces jail. Prosecutors allege genetic material from the Marco Polo Argali sheep pictured was used to breed the Montana Mountain King. Don't miss any update, subscribe my channel for entertainment news. A farmer has been caught illegally breeding massive, mutant sheep to sell to private hunting reserves for up to $10,000, a court in Montana heard. Arthur Jack Schubarth, 80, who owns a 215-acre ranch in Vaughan, Montana, pleaded guilty to criminal charges of wildlife trafficking and conspiracy to traffic wildlife at a court in Great Falls on Tuesday. Prosecutors say he illegally used tissue and testicles from wild sheep killed by hunters in Central Asia and the U.S. to breed hybrid. According to court documents, Schubarth conspired with at least 5 other people between 2013 and 2021 to create a larger hybrid species of sheep that would generate high prices from shooting reserves, where people pay to hunt captive trophy game animals. Schubarth's ranch specializes in the purchase, sale and breeding of alternative livestock, such as mountain sheep, mountain goats and various ungulates, according to prosecutors. They claimed that Schubarth secretly brought parts of the largest sheep in the world, the Marco Polo Argali sheep from Kyrgyzstan, into America. Marco Polo males, which are native to the mountains of the Pamir region of Central Asia, can weigh more than 22 stone with horns that span more than 5 feet. And the court also heard how they are prohibited in Montana to protect native sheep from disease and hybridization. Prosecutors say Schubarth sent genetic material from the Marco Polo's body parts to a lab to create cloned embryos. He then implanted the embryos in ewes on his ranch, resulting in a single, pure genetic male Marco Polo that he named Montana Mountain King, or MMK, the court heard. Typical size of sheep breeds: British Suffolk, common UK breed, height 80 centimeters, weight 125 kilograms. Marco Polo Argali, world's largest, wild sheep, 120 centimeters, 140 kilograms. Montana Mound. Court documents stated that Schubarth worked with the others to use the Montana Mountain King's semen to artificially impregnate various other species of ewes and create hybrid animals. He agreed to sell one offspring to 2 people in Texas for $10,000, the court heard. To move the prohibited sheep in and out of Montana, Schubarth and others forged veterinary inspection certificates, falsely claiming that the sheep were legally permitted species, the court heard. Prosecutors said Schubarth also sold semen from the Montana Mountain King directly to sheep breeders in other states. This was an audacious scheme to create massive hybrid sheep species to be sold and hunted as trophies, said Todd Kim, Assistant Attorney General. In pursuit of this scheme, Schubarth violated international law and the Lacey Act, both of which protect the viability and health of native populations of animals. The Lacey Act prohibits trade in wildlife that has been taken, possessed, transported or sold in violation of federal or state law. Schubarth also illegally purchased genetic material from a Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep, the largest wild sheep in North America, which stand around 3 feet tall and can weigh over 21 stone, to traffic to buyers in other states. He paid $400 to a hunter for the testicles from one of the wild sheep, which had been shot in Montana, to breed more of the species and crossbreed with the Argali sheep. The kind of crime we uncovered here could threaten the integrity of our wildlife species in Montana, Ron Howell, head of state wildlife enforcement, said. Each count carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Sentencing for Schubarth is set for July 11. On a Facebook page in his name, which features numerous photos of livestock, Schubarth wrote 2 days ago, "We have not been able to sell sheep for about 3 years now. First time in 80+ years I'm broke." In 2019, Donald Trump Jr., the son of the former president, was condemned by animal rights groups when he went to hunt Argali sheep in Mongolia, where they are considered a national treasure. He reportedly shot one of the creatures, which are on the list of near-threatened species, using a laser-sighted rifle. Eating seabirds. A warming island's mice are breeding out of control. Cape Town, South Africa. Mice accidentally introduced to a remote island near Antarctica 200 years ago are breeding out of control because of climate change, and they are eating seabirds and causing major harm in a special nature reserve with unique biodiversity. Don't miss any update, subscribe my channel for entertainment news. Now conservationists are planning a mass extermination using helicopters and hundreds of tons of rodent poison, which needs to be dropped over every part of Marian Island's 115 square miles (297 square kilometers) to ensure success. If even one pregnant mouse survives, their prolific breeding ability means it may have all been for nothing. The Mouse-Free Marian Project, pest control on a grand scale, is seen as critical for the ecology of the uninhabited South African territory and the wider Southern Ocean. It would be the largest eradication of its kind if it succeeds. The island is home to globally significant populations of nearly 30 bird species and a rare undisturbed habitat for wandering albatrosses, with their 10-foot wingspan, and many others. Undisturbed, at least, until stowaway house mice arrived on seal hunter ships in the early 1800s, introducing the island's first mammal predators. The past few decades have been the most significant for the damage the mice have caused, said Dr. Anton Wolfart, the Mouse-Free Marian Project manager. He said their numbers have increased hugely, mainly due to rising temperatures from climate change, which has turned a cold, windswept island into a warmer, drier, more hospitable home. They are probably one of the most successful animals in the world. They've got to all sorts of places, Wolfart said. But now on Marian Island, their breeding season has been extended, and this has resulted in a massive increase in the densities of mice. Mice don't need encouragement. They can reproduce from about 60 days old, and females can have 4 or 5 litters a year, each with 7 or 8 babies. Rough estimates indicate there are more than 1 million mice on Marian Island. They are feeding on invertebrates and, more, on seabirds, both chicks in their nests and adults. A single mouse will feed on a bird several times its size. Conservationists snapped a photo of one perched on the bloodied head of a wandering albatross chick. The phenomenon of mice eating seabirds has been recorded on only a handful of the world's islands. The scale and frequency of mice preying on seabirds on Marian has risen alarmingly, Wolfart said, after the first reports of it in 2003. He said the birds have not developed the defense mechanisms to protect themselves against these unfamiliar predators and often sit there while mice nibble away at them. Sometimes multiple mice swarm over a bird. Conservationists estimate that if nothing is done, 19 seabird species will disappear from the island in 50 to 100 years, he said. This incredibly important island as a haven for seabirds has a very tenuous future because of the impacts of mice, Wolfart said. The eradication project is a single shot at success, with not even a whisker of room for error. Burgeoning mice and rat populations have been problematic for other islands. South Georgia, in the southern Atlantic, was declared rodent-free in 2018 after an eradication, but that was a multi-year project. The one on Marian could be the biggest single intervention. Wolfart said 4 to 6 helicopters will likely be used to drop up to 550 tons of rodenticide bait across the island. Pilots will be given exact flight lines and Wolfart's team will be able to track the drop using GPS mapping. The bait has been designed to not affect the soil or the island's water sources. It shouldn't harm the seabirds, who feed out at sea, and won't have negative impacts for the environment, Wolfart said. Some animals will be affected at an individual level, but those species will recover. There's no perfect solution in these kinds of things, he said. There is nothing that just zaps mice and nothing else. The eradication project is a partnership between BirdLife South Africa and the National Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, which designated Marian Island as a special nature reserve with the highest level of environmental protection. It has a weather and research station but is otherwise uninhabited and dedicated to conservation. The department said the eradication of mice was essential if the unique biodiversity of the island is to be preserved. Wolfart said the amount of planning needed means a likely go-ahead date in 2027. The project also needs to raise around $25 million, some of which has been funded by the South African government, and get final regulatory approvals from authorities. Scientists have tried to control the mice of Marian in the past. They were already a pest for researchers in the 1940s, so 5 domestic cats were introduced. By the 1970s, there were around 2,000 feral cats on the island, killing 500,000 seabirds per year. The cats were eliminated by introducing a feline flu virus and hunting down any survivors. Islands are critical to conservation efforts, but fragile. The Island Conservation Organization says they are extinction epicenters, and 75% of all species that have gone extinct lived on islands. About 95% of those were bird species. This really is an ecological restoration project, Wolfart said. It's one of those rare conservation opportunities where you solve once and for all a conservation threat.